everyone. And everyone who's in lockdown, the first bit of advice, focus on the exit. We will get through this. This will pass. Focus on the exit. Back yourself to muddle yourself through this. No matter what happens, this will pass. The real test happens is when it's over, are you prepared? Are you ready? How have you changed? How have you developed yourself? This could be the opportunity of a lifetime. Behind every cloud, there's a silver lining. So let's start with the leadership bit first. I'm going to do this in 2 bits very quickly. The first thing, let's talk leadership. Let's equip you with leadership tools. Let's give you some confidence about your leadership. Then some tips on what you do now that you realize you are a leader. So the first lesson is, the biggest myth in Western developed societies is leaders are only at the top of the organization. It's nonsense. Managers are at the top of the organization. Leaders are everywhere. Everyone on this call can be a leader if they choose to be. You don't study it. There's no degree in the world for leadership. It's all management. Leadership is very different to management. Leadership is a choice. Once you've decided to become a leader, no one can take it away from you. As of this moment, you are leaders. Do not deny yourselves and do not deny me. So when I say management, I mean plans, tasks, strategies, balanced scorecards, KPIs, all the things that we can measure and we can track. We call it hardware. It's the IQ. We think it. Let's move to leadership. Vision, people, teams, culture. Vision, people, teams, culture. We call it the software. It's the EQ. We think management, we feel leadership. I'm not going to talk to you about management anymore. I'm going to talk to you about leadership. People ask me the big question, a leader's born or a leader's made? And I say neither. Leaders are found. We find leaders. And we find it within ourselves. The minute we've made that choice, it will not disappear. The 2 biggest clues, the 2 biggest indicators that you're on your leadership path. If you want to find the leaders around you, in your family, amongst your friends, in your organization, look for those who can influence and persuade without authority. They're the leaders. Can you influence and persuade others without authority? That's the bit where you've got to practice. That's the bit you've got to test it. And you'll notice it that amongst your friends and your families, at work, when there's a social gathering, sometimes you'll notice who's organizing it. When some people organize it, everybody comes because they're the leaders. They can influence and persuade. So in summary, and I don't want you to forget this, leadership is a choice. It's not a job title. It's not an exam. It's not rank. Once you've decided to become a leader, every day you'll get a little bit better. So start that journey now. Vision, people, teams, culture, EQ, your emotional intelligence. And the great quote that sums up Maya Angelou said, not everyone will remember everything that you said, but everyone will remember how you made them feel. That's leadership. Don't forget it. So now let's move to what can we do in these troubled times. Extraordinary times demands extraordinary leadership, not management. Extraordinary times demands extraordinary leadership. And there's 3 things. Everyone at the moment is looking for 3 things: clarity, certainty, and hope. I'm going to say it again so we don't lose it. Clarity, certainty, and hope. That's what people are looking for. In times where it's unprecedented, it's extraordinary, it's tough, it's trouble, whatever words you want to use, people want just that little bit more clarity, that little bit more certainty, and that touch of hope. And as leaders, your job is the positivity, it's the optimism. Nobody wants to work for the pessimist. If all you bring to the problem is hope, you've done your job already. In troubled times, despair is so much easier than hope. We've got to push people towards hope. And I want to give you 3 little tiny stories about that's going to bring alive clarity, certainty, and hope. And remember, managers talk strategy, leaders tell stories. Until the lions have their own storytellers, the tales of the hunt will always favor the hunter. You want to bring people with you? Tell a story. So 3 stories. The first one, clarity. Some say, how do we bring more clarity in a time when no one knows what the solution is, what the answer is? The leader takes his team through the darkest jungle. They're hacking through the undergrowth. It's 4 days. It's sweaty, dengue fever, malaria. Everyone's being stung and they're running out of water. On the 4th day, the leader climbs up the highest tree, looks around and shouts down, "Hey guys, sorry, wrong jungle." Now, some may say, you made a mistake. No, the issue about leadership is, in a world where there are no clear answers, you have to make some big bets. You've got to take some risks. If you get it wrong, just fess up. I got it wrong. People will trust you more. If you look what the government's doing at the moment, there's just no clarity. They made some mistakes, we understand it. PPE wasn't perfect. Testing is non-existent. Just own up, we'll trust you more. So remember, the only mistake is the one you don't learn from. If you don't make a mistake, you will make nothing. So, little story. Second one, certainty. Round where I live, down here in central London, we've all been moaning, complaining we can't get our deliveries from our supermarkets. Tesco, there's no slots. The Ocado, no slots. Waitrose, no slots. There's no slots anywhere. We've got a little Tesco Express. A couple of weeks ago, when I was standing in the queue, two meters social distance, the manager came out. And Tesco, unlike Ocado, doesn't pick from a warehouse. It picks from the largest local store. Our largest local superstore is Brent Cross. He said, "I understand none of you are able to get deliveries. We'll deliver them for you." Pardon? He said, "We'll deliver them for you. When you come next time, just give us your shopping list." Did he have authority from above? No. He took an initiative. We're getting our deliveries done locally. Guess how we feel about him and Tesco? Sometimes you've just got to take the initiative. You're guided by do the right thing. Just do the right thing all the time. You will make a positive difference. That's a little bit more certainty for some of us who are living in uncertainty. I suppose the last one is hope. I've got a neighbor, the neighbor who she moans more than anyone else I know. She's the expert moaner. And the other day, we're just coming out the gate. I meet her at the gate and she's saying, "Have you noticed that the post is arriving later and later?" I thought, here we go again. And just at that moment, the postman walked up. So I said to him, I said, "Peter, Michelle says the post is getting later and later." He looked a little embarrassed, stared at his shoes, and he looked up and he said, "The guy at number 88, he's getting on and his eyesight is failing. So every day when I take him his post, I sit down with him, I open all the letters and I read them to him." Do you think she's going to complain again? We can all do a little bit of leadership. Every day, the advice I would give you, look out for each other, look after each other. Every good deal works. This is leadership. You don't need to boil the ocean to be a leader. If in doubt on what to do, help your neighbor. Start with good deeds every day. It's how you practice your leadership. And remember, what your people are looking for, what your peers are looking for, what your colleagues are looking for, clarity, certainty, hope. If you start there, you will not go wrong. Make sense? And remember the other thing I said, stories work. Tell stories. Every single day you've got another story. Your friends, your kids, your family. Work out those stories. Don't tell people they've done things wrong. Tell them a story. And I'm going to close with a story for you. And this one is a story of the times. Know your audience. Bring hope. Even if they're skeptical, turn them around. This was a few years ago, and I got a call, well, my agent got a call, and it was to do a talk in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, it's quite interesting, because I don't know if any of you know Atlanta, fabulous city in the southern states in America. Beautiful city. But it's 80% African American. And there are loads and loads of initiatives and loads of entrepreneurial initiatives in and around Atlanta. So I was excited. And my agent got the words that every agent wants to hear. We need him to do it this Saturday. It was 4 days away. Don't let fee stand in the way. We just want Rene. It was Christmas fee. It was Christmas. I'm on the plane. I get there. I'm being briefed. The big guest speaker was Rudolph Giuliani, who prior to this was the mayor of New York. And prior to this was, many called him the mayor of America after 9/11. But remember, Atlanta is 80% African American. Many would say that he cleared up the crime in New York, but he was very focused, adversarial, and sometimes confrontational. And many of the African Americans felt there was a little too much profiling that took place. And the reason they'd called me to come in, which I'd now worked out was rather obvious, was because this audience may not have been that pleased to have Rudy Giuliani as the keynote. I'd been with him in the morning. He was the last speaker of the day. And when he came, I sat with him in the green room and he asked me the straight question. And we got on really well. A diminutive man, not the most charismatic person I've ever worked with. But he asked me this question very straight. He said, "What do you think they think of me? What are they expecting?" Now, I'd been amongst them at lunchtime and they said that, I don't know why they've chosen Giuliani. They weren't happy. So I just told him straight, I'm not sure they're going to be welcoming you with open arms. I think you may find this very difficult. He said, "What do you suggest I do?" I said, "Well, stories work. If you can win them over with a story." He said, "Buy me 5 minutes." I went outside, told a few stories, told a few gags, and then introduced him on. He's a short, as I said, short, diminutive man. He did something I've never seen any speaker do before. He walked directly to the edge of the stage. He didn't stand behind the lectern. He went right to the edge of the stage. There was no barrier between him and the audience. And he told this story. And I'll never forget it, and I don't think you'll forget it either. He said he was born in 1960s America, in New York, at the time of the civil rights activists. His father had said to him, "These civil rights activists are a bunch of communists and dangerous for America." And by far the most dangerous of the lot was Martin Luther King. As life would have it, when he was about 8 years old, it was announced that Martin Luther King was coming to Central Park, New York, to give a talk to thousands of people. His father said to him, "Son, I want you to come and listen to this man and listen to how dangerous he really is." They went to Central Park, New York on a hot Sunday afternoon. Martin Luther King was standing on the pulpit and he was electrifying the audience. He was holding his father's hand, and after 15 minutes, he felt his father's hand go cold and sweaty. After 30 minutes, he looked up and saw a tear fall down his father's eye. As they were walking home, his father said to him, "Son, we have just been in the presence of greatness. That man stands for one thing and one thing only, non-violence." And let's remember those times: beatings, shootings, lynchings, rapings. Martin Luther King and his followers, no matter how tough it got, no matter how bad it got, they managed to turn their cheek and never resort to violence. So much so they went on to shame a nation into changing its stance on civil rights. Giuliani challenged the audience. "I know what Martin Luther King stands for. What do you stand for today?" They gave him a standing ovation. Let me ask you the question. What do you stand for today? I'm hoping that you're leaving my talk as leaders. Every one of you as leaders. I'm hoping you're leaving my talk with 3 things you're going to practice in the coming weeks: clarity, certainty, and hope. Bukola, let's take some questions.
Wow, Rene, that was amazing. I mean, you told the Giuliani story as stretch, but hearing it again is just like, another level. It's giving me goosebumps. Right, so guys, please type in your questions in chat. But Rene, I have a question to start with. So
please.
You said, you talked about storytelling, and I know that is really important. But do you think, can it be learned? Do we all have the intrinsic, the innate ability to tell stories, or is it personal? Is it left to some personalities or some people that are more articulate, sort of, vocal? Or do you think anyone can learn it?
Let's stretch it even more, Bukola. I think it's a great question. It's one that everyone can learn to tell stories. The best storytellers, mothers at home. Mothers at home are the most natural storytellers. They're telling them all. They don't tell all their charges off, and it's not just the kids. It's husband, it's sister, it's grand. They're telling stories every day. But even more than stories, stories are the key to EQ. EQ can be learned. Emotional intelligence can be developed. So to me, it's like good manners. Not everyone starts off with good manners, but we learn it over time. So it becomes instinctive. You just stand up in the room and know to stretch your hand and shake hands.
Yeah.
You know sometimes to stand up and let an older person have the seat. You don't have to think about it. It's just ingrained into you. So that's EQ is the same. Storytelling is the same. I spend my life walking around watching things. Every day I'm gifted at least one story. You just watch an incident, but not the incident is given to you. You have to craft the story.
Yeah.
You add a bit of salt, you add a bit of pepper, you embroider it a bit, you stretch it a little, you give it a bit of a start, you give it a bit of an end, you tell it a few times so you can tell it without going, Stories work.
Great, great. Thanks, Rene. Someone has a question here and said, Rene, can you recommend a good resource, either a book, podcast, for learning how to tell stories?
Buy yourself Spike, right? There's a great book called Spike.
Who is the author of Spike?
It's what are you great at? And look, we send out every single day, we send out something called a Spike Spark. What we try to do is give a quote, something for everybody today to just give you a little bit of inspiration. Underneath it, I write a little story. What
is the one behavior or trait that you have seen derail more leaders' careers?
Confrontation. I think there is no reason for confrontation. I think if someone's got an alternative point of view, deal with it with charm. Take it as feedback. And there's always, and the worst behavior of the lot is to deal with it in a public forum. If someone said something that is inappropriate, shouldn't have been said, or needs to be addressed, we praise in public, we challenge in private. Find the right time, find the right moment. Don't be afraid to challenge it, but choose your moment, choose your location. Destroying someone in public, you're the loser.
Thanks, Rene. Another question said, in Spike, you said believing in the problems destroys our faith in opportunities. Well, that's a real Spike follower. How do you solve problems if you are moving quickly away from problems?
So you don't deny the problems, but what you do is, the first thing is, nothing is best done alone. Get everybody in. As many people in your team around you. No one is brilliant at everything, but everyone is good at something. When we come together, there's no problem that we can't resolve. But resolve it with optimism. Try things. If it doesn't work, try more things. Don't get everyone down that today we're going to solve this problem. There's nothing else we can do. If we fail, it's all over. No, we're going to give this our best shot today. And if it doesn't work, we're going to come back. And let me say it again. The only mistake is one we don't learn from. If we don't make mistakes, we're not going to make anything. And the role of the leader is to rally the troops, even though we've gone. There's a great quote from Churchill. Success is the ability to go from failure to failure with no lack of enthusiasm. Okay?
Yeah. So another question is coming. How can I change perception of my team to show my leadership ability?
So I'm reading into that maybe they don't see you as the inspiring leader at the start. So there's a few things that people are doing at the moment, especially in the working from home, that you may think about. Two things. One is we call it the fireside chat. So some of my clients once a week are having a call with no agenda, a Zoom call with no agenda. Everyone in the team can join in. It's share information, a bit of gossip, how you're doing, find out how people are going. It's easy. It's the working from home equivalent of management by walking around. We all used to say that you manage by walking around, have no agenda, just go around from office to office, see how people are feeling, gauge the temperature. Well, it's a bit more difficult when people are stuck from home. And sometimes it doesn't take a Zoom, it's just a phone call. Ask yourself the question every day, when was the last time I checked in with all of my team? And just that little phone call to, hey, Nicola, how are you? How are things? What is it you want? No, I don't need anything. I just want to see if anything's okay. What can I do for you? The second trick I would say is the four most powerful words. What do you think? Just asking your team members on a regular basis, what do you think? Just by asking those four words, you're telling them that I value your opinion. If you listen to what they say, you've created engagement. If you act on what they say, you've created trust.
Yeah.
So 2 things: check in on a regular basis, fireside chat, let them know that you care. Number 2, the 4 most powerful words: what do you think?
So Rene, following up from that, I know I've read and I know that self-awareness is one of the greatest gifts a leader can have. But how do you sort of train yourself to be able not to be offended or afraid of criticisms, so that you can get that feedback, take it for what it is, and use that to develop yourself as a leader?
So 2 things: build trust. Build trust. The first thing, so I would say that in the early days, when you're attempting to be a leader and you're trying to learn as you go on your way, rely on those people who have unconditional love for you. Family and friends. They may not use management speak, but they're going to give you feedback. They want you to succeed.
Yeah.
Listen to it. As you'll get used to that embryonic feedback, then grow to take it from the team that you trust. If you build trust, you look after your team, they're only going to say things to you because they want you to be better. If you haven't built trust and you haven't respected them, then it may hurt. The trick I would say is you're going to get the feedback you deserve. If you're not putting the work in, they're going to hit you hard. If you're putting the work in, they'll do it with an arm around your shoulder.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of feedback. It's the biggest gift we're ever given.
Sure. Someone is asking, would there be a sequel to Spike?
I'm writing one now. One of the things I'm doing in the downturn, I'm writing one now. I've noticed during coronavirus that the national leaders, females, they're so much ahead of the men at the moment.
Why do you think that is, Rene?
I think that there's this, so 2 things. The first one is, many of the men who are chosen to lead, if we look at them, they're alpha males. They're overconfident. They got to the top because they've got big personalities, they fill in the room. But now we're asking them to solve a real difficult problem. We don't need big personalities to do that. We need good leaders to do that.
Yeah.
And if we look at some of the female leaders, we look at what's happening in Taiwan, look in Germany, look in New Zealand,
yeah,
they're a bit more cautious, they're into the data, and they acted decisively early. Yeah. And the big difference, EQ. So I'm going to write a book that says EQ can be learned. I think we can teach EQ. You can learn, everyone can do it. It's not magic, it's not science. You know, we say that IQ tends to be genetics. Whatever your IQ is when you're young, it hardly changes throughout your life. EQ, you can learn it. You can learn it, and I'm going to prove it.
Okay. I'm just going to take the liberty to ask a follow-on question to that, because I know we have a few ladies on the call today. So do you think at the time has come for female leadership, and so for the women that are here that want to step into those big shoes?
It came a long time ago. It came a long time ago. Look, when I talk about the leadership that works best today, think of mothers at home. That's the EQ empathy model that works today. The days of having one leader at the top, solving every problem, laying down every strategy are long gone. No one can do that. The world's too complex. Yeah. We need leaders now who are collaborators.
Yes.
Who bring people together, who understand that nothing is best done alone anymore, who are inclusive, who don't need the limelight, but are always there to help everyone. And they know that what they're brilliant at is pulling the team together, bringing diverse voices together. Yeah. The next day we saw Angela Merkel being challenged, and she brought them all together, tried to answer everyone, and she used her team to answer it. That's the leadership model today. Is it the right time for female leaders? No, we're a few years late, if I'm really honest with you. Should have happened a long time ago. But the model of leadership that I coach all my clients with, look at mothers at home. Look at that intuitive, instinctive care for everyone. And mothers know that everyone needs a slightly different stroke. Some are cajoled, some are coaxed, some are confronted. They know precisely, and it's like, no one sent them to a university to learn it, but they do it so brilliantly. Yeah. That's the leadership model for today.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Another question here. How do you know when you start having an impact as a leader?
You will know instantly, because people will follow you. They'll come to you for guidance. They'll come to you for care. No one needs to tell you. When your leadership is working well, you get instant feedback from your people. Now, it's a bit more difficult in the Zoom world, but you'll see buying signals, people nodding, affirmation, people wanting to do a little bit more for you, asking the right questions on how do I do some more. You'll also know when you're not having the right impact. The arms get folded, people start to play with their iPhone. They won't go the extra mile for you. Leadership is the toughest job in the world, and so it should be. It's also the best job in the world. The more you practice, the better you get. It's the most fulfilling thing you'll ever do. If there's one regret I've got in my career, someone didn't teach me leadership earlier. If you want your career to go as far and as fast, believe you me, it's not, forget the academia. Waste of time today.
Yeah.
What's happening in work is so far ahead of where academics. Get the basics, get yourself a degree, then focus on your leadership. What's going to get you to the top is you being the leader. The days of being the cleverest person in the room are long gone. It's the person that people will follow. And here's the trick. Good leaders create followers. Great leaders create leaders.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Rene. Someone says, when faced with two equally qualified candidates, how do you determine who to hire?
Choose the leader. Simple. Great. Choose the better leader. Qualification. Look, if you're capable, you're qualified. Throw the qualifications away. Who will people follow? That's the person that should get the job.
Yeah. And
remember what I said before, those who can influence and persuade. That's the indicator of leadership.
How do you exhibit leadership in a fast-paced environment?
With energy, leading from the front, leading from within. So look, it's what I've said all along. Leaders care. Yeah. If it's fast-paced, people are going to fall over more. Be there for them. The sign of the best leader is when I'm struggling, they know I'm struggling and they're there to support me. When I've fallen over, they're there to understand. When I'm not achieving, they're there to help me. Yeah. The leader isn't there to keep pushing you forward all the time. It's there to support you. The leader you'll remember more than any other is every time I fell over, they were there for me. Every time I had an issue, they were there for me. Yeah. So therefore, now I'm fixed and I'm okay. I'm going to give them everything I can. Remember, the only thing worse than no leadership is poor leadership.
Absolutely.
If you've worked for a poor leader, you'll know exactly what I mean. It's the worst experience in the world. You'd prefer no one to be there. Yet, if you work for that leader that you feel you can share with them every issue you've got, you watch how you fly. And the bit I would say all of you, be the leader you want to follow. If you're not sure what to do in a given situation, ask yourself the question, how do I want to be treated in this situation? That's how I'm going to treat my people.
Wow, amazing. I hope you guys are writing this down. These are super amazing nuggets. There's another question here. Someone is asking, as an introvert, how can you show leadership when working with extroverts who overshadow you?
Do you know what? Leadership isn't about introverts, extroverts. It's about what's in your heart. Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who's getting rave reviews everywhere, is an introvert. She's probably done better than anyone else through coronavirus. People trust her. Do you remember that golden moment 2 years ago when they had the tragic terrorist shooting in New Zealand in the mosque? I remember she turned up
with a hijab, yes,
hijab wearing, and she hugged everyone. That's more powerful than any great speech. It's more powerful than the leader on the white charger at the front. It's not what you say, it's what you do. It's what you stand for. Yeah. And I think when I look at Jacinda Ardern, I think circumstances change, values don't. Being an introvert that's no barrier to being a fabulous leader. Keir Starmer, the new leader of the Labour Party, that is no extrovert. Believe me, that is no extrovert. But already he's making a mark. He's taken a forensic understanding of what the issues are. Everything he says is supported by data. And the first time in many years now, Labour seem to have a leader who's got some gravitas.
Absolutely. Someone is asking a separate question. He's saying you have a podcast. What has been your experience with running a podcast?
Do you know what So we've got a bunch of podcasts. If you go to my website on www.carayol.com, we've got a bunch of them about careers. I did a series where we took people who'd got a strange path to the top. What we did also, which was interesting with podcasts, we filmed them as well. Because some people like just stick the headphones in, listen. Some people like to watch it. But I think podcasts, to me, it was, how do we bring alive lessons learnt? How do we provide nuggets? How do we provide gems? You know, we've got to recognise we're in the entertainment industry, that people need to be entertained, otherwise you're going to switch off. But give them things they can take away and do. Make it practical, pragmatic. No one's interested in theory anymore. Academia's got its place. That's not what we're at. How do we make you better today? That's what we're trying to do.
Right, we are fast running out of time. I wish we had more time. Okay, someone is asking, when you lead a product team that works to deadlines and deliverables, how would you combine management strategy with leadership?
It's a great question. Look, deadlines, you need management. If you don't put management in place, you will go out of business. If you don't measure, you can't manage. You need deadlines, you need KPIs, you should check, but what leadership does is make it feel good while you're doing that. Being managed every day is quite a negative experience. Have you done it? Let me check. Have you done it? Let me check. Show me the evidence. Let's go through this one more time. Let's test it again. Let's go. That can be quite difficult, and it makes you feel untrusted. It's essential, otherwise you go out of business. Wrap it round with the leadership bit. Guys, we've got the toughest journey we're ever going to have over the next 6 weeks. I need all of you. I need all of you to support me. I'll be here for you. What can I do to support you along the way? What do you need? My job is to create an environment that enables success. What resources can I give you? That's the leadership bit. The management bit is, come on guys, I need it by this, and I'm going to have to check. Let's double check it, treble check it. There's space for all of it. But the bit that makes the essential difference is the leader that cares. I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to ensure there's no blame. If you fail, I'll be there to support you. I'm going to be giving you constant communication, constant engagement, and letting you know that I'm there to support you. If you fail, it's my fault. I will take ownership. I'll give you the air cover. Try as hard as you can. I'm there for you.
Great. Another question. What is one thing you should do immediately when leading a new group of people to build trust?
Demonstrate your vulnerability. Show them that you're real. Tell them a story where you failed, so they'll believe in you. They'll trust you. The leader that comes in and is perfect, it's really hard to follow them. The leader that comes in and says, "Do you know what, guys, I'm going to get some pizza and I'm going to get some coffees. Let's have a chat. I'm going to share with you who I am, how I've got to where I've got to. I am not perfect." Share the successes with the failures. That's how you initially build trust. The perfect leader, it's really hard to come and share with them that you've got any issues. If the leader says, "I've made some mistakes. I'm from humble origins. I've had to fight to get to where I've got to as well," then you're building an environment where people can come and talk to you about their issues. The more we know each other, the more we trust each other.
Great. 2 more questions. One says, I read a quote somewhere that says leaders have no working hours. Is this true? Sort
of. I would put it slightly differently. I would say that you never switch off from leadership. You know, my kids are at home. My kids can't wait for me to leave early again and come back late. I'm in the house every day. But you know, I have to provide some leadership, a duty of care for them. When I'm my neighbours, I've got a neighbour 3 doors down. She's getting on a bit. Once a day, I'm sure me, my son or my daughter, one of us, will just pick up the phone and see if she's okay. That's leadership. I've also got to look after all my people. They're dispersed all around the UK. The trick is, it's not that you never switch off. It's that it's always there. It's not a role that I'm going to be a leader for the next 3 hours. No. It's like, when are you not a mother? You're a mother from the moment you have the child. And to me, it's a privilege to be a leader. It's the biggest privilege you ever get. As far as I'm concerned, there was a time when I didn't quite believe in myself, and a leader somewhere came to believe in me. They left me with a baton of leadership. There is no one I will not help. So therefore, I'm a leader every minute of every day. It's my privilege.
Brilliant. So final question. What advice do you have for people who have struggled with self-confidence issues?
Buy Spike.
Okay.
Read Spike today.
We have someone
good man.
Spike.
No, good man. The bit I would say to you is that no one is brilliant at everything. What you've got to do is find your Spike. What is the 2 or 3 things you're outstanding at?
Yeah.
That's where you're going to build your confidence from. And I really mean it. Take a moment, go and listen to Spike, read Spike. Every one of us has been given a gift. We're all as unique as our fingerprints. Inside all of us is a blessing. Until we find it, we're groping in the dark. When you find it, everything becomes clear to you.
Wow, how amazing. Can you guys please join me in typing a big, big thank you to Rene. Rene, that was amazing. So there were just far too many things that, Rene, you've left with us. But what is the one thing? So you've said a lot of things, and I'm sure people will be watching this on replay. But what is the one thing you want us to take away from here today? If we forget everything else, what is the one thing you don't want us to forget?
If you're bold, you might fail. If you're not bold, you will fail.
Oh my God, amazing. That is amazing. If you are bold, you might fail, but if you are not bold, you will definitely fail. Thank you so much, Rene. And please, guys, don't forget to send an email to rene@carayol.com.
They're coming in already. I can see them. They're flying in. Well done.
And Rene, do you want us to share this with the wider group or just the people in this breakout session?
No, share with the wider group. Look,
okay.
the 2 things I would ask all of you to do for me, please.
Yeah.
Look out for each other. Look after each other. We'll make a better world.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So guys, remember, if you are bold, you might fail. If you are not bold, you will definitely fail. That is the one thing. Number 2 is to look after each other and look out for each other. I believe that a rising tide lifts all the boats. So let's all rise.
You better believe it. You better believe it.
So,
my pleasure. Look, it's fabulous to work with you. Remember, every one of you is a leader from this moment. Do not let me down. Do not let yourselves down.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you. We're going to be going to the main session in a bit. But Rene, I just wanted to ask one quick final question. Mm-hmm. This has been playing at the back of my mind, and everything you've said has resonated. But what if you find yourself in an organization, no matter how much you try, the organization is toxic, the culture is not conducive to bringing out good leadership? What do you do? So
this is a great question. It's your fault, really. Before you join any organization, ask yourself the question, do their values match mine? Ask before. Asking after is too late. Only join an organization whose values match yours. How do you find out? Ask someone who's left there. Ask a supplier. Ask someone who's working there. Do not take the risk of joining the organization because the job title is great, the salary is great. When you get there, your values do not match theirs. Ask before, and it's the most important question you ask. And ask it deeply.
Yes.
Get it wrong, it's going to hurt.
Get it wrong, it's going to hurt. So ask before you join. And the word would definitely be on the street. Someone would know, either a supplier, ex-colleague, or someone who's worked there before.
There's nothing better than joining an organization when you're finishing off each other's sentences, there's a values match, and there's a love affair taking place. There's nothing worse when you're rejected from day one.